Good evening. I'm Kimberly Edwards with cookingwithkimberly.com. And tonight I looked in the fridge. I've been using all kinds of breads and stuff like that, but I don't seem to have a full loaf of bread that I really feel like eating. So I was in the pantry today and I saw a whole bag of bulk rye flour, and I said, wow, I haven't made rye bread in a while, but I didn't feel like just plain old rye bread, and nothing struck me, so I've been kind of passing it over. And then I looked in the fridge, and there seemed to be a bottle of Coke that I used. I drank, put it in a glass, and put it in the fridge. It's the end of the bottle, you know, when you don't want to drink it, and it's kind of flat and not cool. So I was about to chunk it, and I thought, you know what? It just occurred to me, and it's kind of a play on words. It's a rye and Coke, rye and cola. So I figured I would make a rye and cola bread for my bread machine. I love my bread machine. Here it is. Every woman and man needs a bread machine at home to make fresh bread with no preservatives and nasty crap in it. So I'm going to show you how to load your ingredients into the bread machine. What you're going to do is you're going to start with your wet ingredients, right? Bread usually needs to be balanced, okay? So you need a little bit of salt, you need a little bit of oil, you need your flours, you need maybe a little bit of sweetener, whether that's sugar or honey or molasses or cola in this case. The bread also needs to be wet, so you need some wet ingredients, and my cola matches all of those criteria. It matches the sweet and the liquid. So in goes my cola, which is actually room temperature now. I've taken it out and let it sit. That's 1 cup. 1 cup. Uno. Okay. Next, I am going to put in, hold on, I need a tablespoon. Just rough eyeball it too. You don't need to really be so serious. A tablespoon of butter. I am using a very good butter. In fact, it's one of my favorite butters. I will not tell you what the brand name is. However, it is a Polish or Ukrainian style butter. Okay, and it's so much creamier. It has much fresher dairy flavor. I don't know. It's just more buttery and it's awesome. If you try this and you go back to your other butter, you'll be like, oh, what am I eating? So this is awesome. I wish I could tell you. I'll tell you about it in a blog post sometime. Okay. Those are my wet ingredients. I typically have other wet ingredients that I put in. I don't know. Sometimes I put jam. Sometimes I put the molasses, or I put sauces or something like that to flavor the bread. But today, my only wet ingredient is that cola. So after you put your wet ingredients in, what you're going to do next is you're putting your dry ingredients in. So I'm going to start with a teaspoon of sea salt. A lot of people put 1.5 teaspoons into their breads. Again, as I always tell you, I cut back on my sodium as much as possible. If you want to put more in, by all means, but for me, I'm good. Okay, so that's my salt. Next, I am going to put some seeds in. Now, seeds, you can put any seeds you want to, but today I feel like putting flax seeds. I buy in bulk because, you know, you could use, I'm going to put some ground caraway powder in. And the reason I'm doing that is caraway seeds are usually baked with rye bread. This is a dark rye bread flour. Caraway seeds would be beautiful in here, and I wish I had some, but I don't. So I'm going to use flaxseed, and flaxseed's going to up that nutrition content as well, give you a little something interesting to put in. I'm putting 2 tablespoons right into the reservoir. Bam. Done. Okay. Next, you're going to put your flour in. Now, when I make breads, and I'm using another kind of flour, I like to call them exotic flours, even though they're not really exotic, but to me, you know, it's different than all-purpose or just bread flour. When I make breads, I use bread flour. I won't tell you the brand name. It's a Canadian brand name. It's my favorite, and it's actually called bread flour. You can use all-purpose. Don't sweat it. I'm just I love bread. I'm also going to put the ground spice in. Here, let's do that. First, I'm putting a teaspoon in. Ground caraway is very strong. If you were using the seeds, I'd probably use about a tablespoon, maybe 2 tablespoons, just like I did the flaxseed. However, the caraway is already ground up, so it's very, very concentrated flavor. It's awesome. And I'm just going to put 1 teaspoon. Now, yeah, caraway is something that typically goes with rye bread. You'll see them all on the outside of rye breads a lot. So there's my caraway. Again, my flours. When I use flour, I don't use all one flour. Like, I won't use all whole wheat flour. I won't use all rye flour because it's just too much. You can cut back on your flour by using all-purpose to mix in, and plus it will help. Those other flours tend to be very heavy, so your bread's very dense and heavy, and it's like, I'm so full off one slice. You don't want to make a sandwich or anything like that. So the all-purpose or the bread flour is what makes your bread much lighter. It's not quite as healthy because it's processed, but it is the glue that helps your kitchen get by. So in this recipe, I am going to put 2 cups of bread flour in first, okay? And I'm just plunking that right in the reservoir. In a typical 1 loaf bread machine, I use about 3.5 cups of flour, whatever kind of flour that may be altogether. Next, I'm going to put in my rye flour. Now today with the rye flour, I'm going to use 1 3/4 cup. Rye bread is an integral part of my culture. I'm half Ukrainian, I'm half German. They both like rye bread, but Ukrainians and Polish people typically eat a lot of rye bread. So here is 1 cup rye flour. You can store your flours in the freezer if you like, in an airtight container. It helps them keep longer and better. They won't go rancid, especially if they don't have preservatives in. You get it from the bulk or you get organic style. They tend to go bad and rancid much quicker. So if you're getting exotic flours, like I like to call them, put them in an airtight container, store them in your freezer if you can, and roll with it that way. Otherwise, use them up as quickly as you can, so you don't have that issue. Now, I'm going to see if I can show you what it looks like in here. Okay. Where are you? There's my camera. Okay, in there is the flour. All you can see is flour. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make a little divot inside of that flour, and I'm going to gingerly place my yeast that I'm going to tell you about. Now, you want your yeast, especially if it's the bread machine yeast, is what I use for the bread machine. You don't have to, but if you're using the bread machine yeast, it tends to bloom and work much faster than the traditional rise. And this one should stay away from the sugar and the liquid, or your bread would ooze out of your bread machine. Believe me, I've done it many times, accidentally or not thinking, or before I knew about it, and it would start oozing out. It would be like lifting the lid. It'd be awful. It'd be everywhere. What a mess. So please learn from me. Take my advice. If you're using the traditional, then go ahead. You can put it in the liquid. You need that extra time and heat and able to congregate with the sugars in the liquid so that it can actually bloom. It needs to catch up. But this is so fast, so fast, so fast. So today I'm going to use 1.5 teaspoons of bread machine yeast. This is something you don't want to screw up. You don't want to put too much. You don't want to put too little. Pay attention to the amounts of yeast that I tell you. Otherwise, you're going to have a great big surprise, okay? So 1.5 teaspoons. Make a reservoir in the middle of that dough, of the flour, I'm sorry. That's 1, and I'm actually going to measure it out. I'm not even going to eyeball it, just because. You can use up to 2 sometimes. A lot of recipes tell you 2, but it may not distinguish between using the rapid rise, the traditional, or the bread machine. Bread machine is specifically for bread machines. Use it. It's awesome. Now, what am I going to do? That's everything that's going in this reservoir right now, and I'm going to talk to you in just a second about what else I'm going to do. Okay. So I'll come back over here. Maybe I can show you the lid here. I am going to put it on the dark cycle because this is a dark bread in every way, shape, and form. It's dark flour. I'm using the dark cola. It's going to make it even darker. So it's going to be somewhat sweet. So I am going to choose, and it's just that easy. Hold on. The dark bread. Dark bread. There it is. You have choices. Normal, dark, French, sweet, and just dough. And you just press select. Simple stuff on these guys. I'm going to press select to start, okay? That shows 2 hours and 35 minutes, which means I am not going to be able to show you my bread completely done in this video. No way, no how.